Welcome back, everyone, for the last game of today. We will be back again tomorrow to cover the last 4 games, but we did have some exciting ones. Excuse me. We did have some exciting ones coming up in today, with CGA looking a little bit shaky right before playoffs. This is not the time you can afford to really be looking worse for wear, but with a little bit of a more lax match to close out today, I do think this is a pretty good day to close out on, and then we will be back again, like I said, tomorrow, so be sure to tune in for that. All of that being said, though, we're going to have AXZ versus Rascal Chester here coming up, and just to talk a little bit lightly on what the last game was, it was a bit of a... So, one thing that I've always kind of criticized Sengoku for is that they have a certain rhythm at which they like to play the game, and the thing I always used to praise CGA for is that CGA would usually let them have it and then just be the team fight oriented team. But that being said, in that game, it really came down to Sengoku just played out the team fights better, and you could call it a bit of a drafting issue, which I'm not even opposed to at this point. I definitely think the drafts need to be cleaned up a little bit before playoffs roll around. So, for AXZ and Rascal Jester here coming up, though, a little bit of a similar story of how we could be cleaning up a little bit in the drafting department, but this is sort of the battle for the bottom, and I don't think it takes away from its overall importance. But I do want to spend a little bit of time just talking about where the standings are left in the wake of the CGA versus Sengoku game. So CGA going 0-2 will mean that right now Sengoku is tied with CGA. So if Sengoku beats out V3 tomorrow, they will be ahead and they will secure themselves second place. As well as DFM going 2-0 in the week will mean that Burning Core are currently 1 game behind, so they'll need to find a win tomorrow to hopefully tie it up, or 2 if they want to keep their lead, without having to play out that tiebreaker match. And of course, Hawks Gaming can easily get up into that running as well. So the 4, 5, and 6 spots are actually in a bit of contention right now, but with Sengoku pulling out that win, it sort of locks in the top 3 teams, and right now the bottom 3 teams are really the ones that are going to need to kind of scramble out a bit. So as the bracket and the standings are kind of broken up into these 3 spots, the bottom is where it all begins, and if that is how the split is gonna end up in its standings, I definitely think AXZ and Rascal Jester is a great team to kick this one off. Now, in their last series, this is where Rascal Jester were actually able to acquire their first win of the split. Rascal Jester has kind of had an interesting story where they beat AXZ in a fairly convincing fashion, and they had some great draft outplays into the Volibear in the top lane, and then they rolled that into another win immediately after. But then almost immediately following that, Rascal Jester just took a hard fall, and they have really been struggling to pick themselves back up to that point. Meanwhile, AXZ in week 5 and 6 picked up a couple good wins, so not a bad position if you are AXZ Gaming, and I think pre-draft predictions, I'm going to have to hand it to AXZ on that account, given that Rascal Jester has just not quite looked to form, and AXZ kind of looked like a flame that turned on just a little bit too late to get the ball rolling. But we'll see how things go for both of them here today, with Bard and Aphelios going to be meeting the ban table to start things off. This is actually an interesting position for Rascal Jester, and possibly a point at which AXZ can struggle, as Rascal Jester are super disincentivized to ban away the Karma mid here, or the Karma here, because Rascal Jester would love to be picking up the Karma. The problem will become, what are they giving up for it? They've banned away Bard, they've banned away Twisted Fate, so a couple of the major threats are given over, but things like Set, Ashe, things of that nature, or even Aphelios, if Aphelios wants to go up, you're basically handing over certain picks to AXZ Gaming here. And with the Karma ban, yeah, that is going to come out on AXZ's side, so Rascal Jester should have a fairly safe pickup here. I do think that, well, Rascal Jester is a team that does like, at least, as I mentioned the last time it showed up, it's fallen very far from its graceful days of the spring split, but seeing it being on the set lock-in is pretty much what you would expect. And for AXZ, are we going to see the R1 Bear? Are we going to see that song and dance be returning once more? Or are we going to see the AD carry being locked in here? Galio, a fairly prioritized pick. Galio has kind of been a little bit of a flying under the radar champion for the LJL. Has a lot of success in the games that it's being played, but doesn't attract a whole lot of ban attention outside of specifically Ace on V3's side of things. And I'm liking this draft from AXZ so far, and Ashe and Galio gives them a bit of flexibility in Galio, but gives you the AD carry of choice, with Aphelios already being taken off the table, so Rascal Jester will have their next pick to be looking at. Wouldn't be surprised to see an Ezreal coming out, but we've also seen the Caitlyn, 50% win rate so far, so maybe Art is looking to bring that up to a positive win rate before this split closes out. And it looks like Rascal Jester will take the Bear. If you're gonna have the name brand, no sense in shying away from the bargain brand as well. If they get Senna as well. Well, AXZ looking at the Zoe pick up here. LeBlanc as well being hovered. LeBlanc would be a little bit of a risky one, as right now Rascal Jester has a couple beefy members and a Senna to help support them. They will lock in Camille in the end. A decent... I actually like the Camille here. The way Rascal Jester's comp is shaking out right now it looks like they'll have a decent amount of side lane threat in split pushing. And I like that the Camille is something that you can lock in here, and you can just send it off to whatever side lane it needs to. It can address whatever comes to mind, and we'll see if AXZ are going to be able to utilize that one here. Now, Rascal Jester facing a Poppy ban, which is a little bit interesting, but is understandable from AXZ, as both Galio and Camille struggle heavily into Poppy, so banning that away, removing that option. Poppy hasn't been seen in the LJL as of yet, but has been poking around in the LCK occasionally in the given comps that it is able to show up for, as Rascal Jester banning away Silas. Silas is a little bit of an interesting one, and is somewhat telling that Pink does not have a Silas, but he'll need to have something, as now Renekton also going to be banned away. Maybe the last game for Rascal Jester will be where we see the Katarina return to the stage, but that's a lot of eggs to put in one basket, as right now Rascal Jester's comp does not have the most amount of damage, so they'll need something to round that one out, as they ban away Echo as well. And I'm curious to see what we see for the jungle pickup here. Karthus was recently buffed, and if you're gonna get your licks in on a Karthus pick, now would be the time, because it is getting nerfed coming up in the next patch here. And that will be the pickup here. I actually really like the Karthus pickup here. Right now, your lanes are decently strong and self-sufficient, so you don't have to worry about getting invaded too heavily, and if you do have a Galio ultimate to help out. Well, we'll see what the response is from Rascal Jester here. As a Tom Kench is being hovered here, this would... This shows a sign to me, at least, that this is possibly going to be the more traditional AD Senna and not a fasting Senna. Because you wouldn't really be wanting to dedicate a TK to saving your Senna if he's supposed to be accelerated in gold and helping out the rest of the team. But there it is. Give the boy his Katarina for one last spin. Did not have any success on it in the past, but maybe now is the time, and realistically with your last game of the split, you might as well have some fun with it. So, giving the Katarina one last whirl here. Well, AXZ has their last pickup to think about. Nautilus is going to be that one, and having that death charge for Katarina is going to be a great position for them. Ultimately, for AXZ, the only thing I am a little bit worried about is which frontline will last longer, and I'm a little bit worried because right now Pink is the only threat to AXZ's backline, but Pink is going to have to get through a Depth Charge point and click ult, you're going to have to get through Ash Arrow, through Galio Taunt, and through Camille sectioning you off with the Hextech Ultimatum. So, is there potential here? Yes. Is it doable will remain to be seen. So, we'll see how things get started off along here. Post-draft predictions, I'm still going to hand it over to AXZ Gaming. I think overall their comp is a lot easier to execute on. It doesn't put too much pressure on a solo carry Katarina. And I think another thing that's worth mentioning in this kind of a comp is, well, we'll see it when game time comes, is whether this is going to be the lethality Senna or the more tank-oriented Senna. I would probably say that I would prefer the lethality Senna, as you really need everything you can to get through the front line, as you did draft into an AD carry that struggles a little bit in the damage department. You do offer a bit of utility, and you might be able to make that be a difference maker, but I'm worried about a fasting Senna showing up here, because a TK is never going to get value on a Karthus Galio Ash that is just going to keep you at arm's length. They'll be happy to treat TK much like the little brother, where you put your hand on his forehead and just kind of keep him at arm's length when he can't hit you. So the major engage tools is going to fall to Kakog and Hachimecha to really get things started off here and set the stage for them. As this is a little bit of a rough stat screen to have to look at, as unfortunately both are bottom end teams, but AXZ does come out on top a little bit. And I will say that I do think AXZ's wins are a little bit more notable, but it'll all come down to this. If AXZ are able to secure this win, they would cement themselves as a 7th place team, while Rascal Jester can really only hope to tie for 7th at this point, and I don't know if they'll even be given a playoff or a match off stream to decide for that final position. All in due time, as playoffs are just around the corner.
まあ、ただ逆の言い方をするとこれ序盤で有利を握っておかないと、はい、集団戦フェーズでダメージが足りなくなってしまうので、どちらかというと序盤有利を取らないとかなり次に近い形かなっていうふうにも言えますね。
重要になってくるのはそうなるとラスカルジェスタの誰ですか？
やはりはちゃめちゃ選手がどれだけゲームを動かせるのか、あとは可能であれば広告選手も例えばテレポートでボットに関与するとしてしっかりだいぶセットアップを行うことによって、まあ、一気にゲームを動かすような。
And we'll wait for the match to get started up along here.
その中盤の有利をしっかり取らないとダメージがかなり心配にもなってくると。
I do think another important note about AXZ versus Rascal Jester specifically in their past set was kind of, I think one of the most important notes that I thought was a little bit odd on the side of Rascal Jester was to see them have such a good draft and then follow it up with just... Hold on, we'll get started right along here before I can finish that thought.
Sa 始まりました LJL2020 サマースプリットウィーク7ゲーム4、アクシズ vs ラスカルジェスターの試合スタートです。
And as we get things started along here, my immediate pleasant findings is, of course, looking at Art is going to be the one farming in this lane, so we'll be getting up towards his damage a little bit better. A little bit interesting is Pink going for TP and Ignite, although Katarina is a champion that doesn't exactly need flash. You have plenty of blinks to take advantage of.
各レーナーがそれぞれでどうゲームを動かしていけるのかですね。
But does make his mobility a little bit limited. Now, the sort of nice thing in this matchup specifically is that the downsides of Set jungle versus having Set in the top lane is Set farms a little bit slower than Volibear, and against a champion like Karthus, when all he wants to do is just kind of farm race you for most of this game, I'm a little bit worried about Hachimecha keeping pace, and hopefully he'll be able to maximize his value on the map to be able to get that done. As on the top side of things, a little bit of trade coming out there. I'm curious if this matchup is necessarily better for Rascal Jester to have Cog in the top lane on Volibear instead of Set. But there is also the notion that it is a lot easier for Set to make plays around the map.
あとはブラックリバーと脅威ビルド2点あるんですが、まあそれぞれしっかりと相手のアーマーを削ったりとか。
And it can be kind of hard for Volibear to get a lot of ganks off, especially against the lineup that AXZ have here. So
ほぼほぼもうこちらしかいないですね。
they'll be content with the position that they set up here. Now, the mid lane is going to be a position to look at, as Gadaidu's ward is going to get snuffed out. And Hachimecha is going to be looping around here, baiting out an invade, but Gadaidu going to walk away from that one. We'll just eat a quick 80 damage, but I think he's too worried about it. I think Hoglet's red buff did just reset, which will set him behind slightly, but he is still a decent chunk ahead of Hachimecha at this point, as he's just going to go for this full clear. Going to be able to back and should have time to get to that Scuttle Crab on the bottom end of things as well before Hachimecha can run straight across. We'll see what Hoglet decides to do in the wake of that, clearing out the top lane vision for his laner there will mean that Hachimecha should be able to just sprint straight across. He's going to go for a little bit of an opportunity onto mid, but this is one of those, if it doesn't work, you don't mind. You're really just passing over as the jungler here. And I think Rascal Jester did see Hoglet wandering into his blue side here. They did ping it out, and Hoglet should just be able to grab these wolves and leave before anything happens, but definitely a little bit of a bold play for an extra camp.
ファーム差という意味ではほとんど差はないんじゃないかなと思
The
い
back will be completed. That's going to be
抑えるしかなかったというような状態でしたか。
Hoglet just returning to his respawned camps here. Mountain Drake should go over to Rascal Jester fairly uncontested, unless the Drake sits around long enough for a lot of axes to be hitting 6. I don't think axes really want to be fighting for it. Hoglet would much rather just be spending his time farming.
ホグレットのファームの位置
Nice thing, of course, is that you can utilize the passive on Karthus if you want to just kind of send him in to start up the fight and then hope for the best afterwards.
セットアップを行ってそこにホグレット選手が合わせていくような形増えてくるんじゃないかなと思いますね。
Little bit concerned to see what we might be coming across here.
さあサステインもあるということも
With neither
あって
bal-
なか
with
なか体力が減らすことはできません。アクセス
with neither bot lane having back so far, I definitely think
取っているので
Axes are going to be opting away from this one. So first Drake going over to Rascal Jester is going to be a good sign for him.
ただここにガリアルが様子を見に来ました。確認。
Godider's wandering down here. He's checking up on Hachimecha. Throws a Q at him just for ultimately for the fun of it. His lane's already shoved up. He has no real better place to be right now.
マウンテンドレイクの獲得になるでしょう。
ただ地味に大きいのは
That will be first Drake over to the side of Rascal Jester while Axes returns back to the mid lane. I'm wondering if Hoglet is going to go for another invade here. It looks like he might want to, but with Hachimecha fresh off of that back, he will be coming right back to that side of the map. Hoglet off of his second clear. Yeah, there he goes. He's going for the play there. Hits the vision cone, but he knows enough members are waiting for him. Pink and Hachimecha both want him the second he sets foot in there. Rascal Jester smartly able to sniff this one out, but possibly another different play going on here as Hoglet's going to face check into Hachimecha here. Gets the slowdown. Hoglet will be able to secure that one. That's 2 flashes right over the wall.
フラッシュアウトが間に合いました。
For a Hachimecha that was not locked down in time, he did have to flash away from that one, but
逃げることができました。
Hachimecha running a deal on 2-for-1 flashes, loses his Gromp, and will mean that Hoglet is able to hit level 6 right away, which is nice, but not the... Probably didn't need both of the flashes if you were Axis Gaming in that scenario. For Godido, you're a little bit less worried as you will have a little bit of extra... You'll have some extra summoners to take advantage of in the meantime.
ヘラルドに対してスワップしていくかですよね。
一応アクシズもアルティメットが揃ってくるので
Meanwhile, on
面白い
the...
けどどうだ
Just looking across the lanes here, Senna actually getting a little bit of the better end of the farm
殴り負けない
here, but the big offset is, of course, in this jungle matchup.
メレー同士ですから確かにオートアタックでラスティールも可能ですね。
And while we do have a little bit of a lull state, wow, that E does so much damage.
そう食らってしまうのでそれでも
That's the benefit of taking Doran's Ring on the Volibear in the top lane.
さあジャングルの CS みるみる開いていきます。
But for now, so long as Hachimecha is only just securing securing objectives solo and is not being able to make plays happen and start setting your lanes behind, plan is working accordingly for Axis here.
プレッシャーをかけてアクションを起こしていかないとちょっと厳しそうですね。
ただもうカーサスルーンエコー完成してレクイエム持って、
早いですね。かなり
めちゃくちゃ早いんですよ。そしてまあ当然アルティメッ
And
ト
while Rascal Jester will just kind of enjoy the farm lane for as long as it lasts.
いよいよちょっと
Definitely feel like Rascal Jester are going to be the ones that need to try and end the farm race
ブルー入りに
if
来
they
ますね
want a chance at this one.
早い。
That's a lot of pings coming out from Axes here, but Hoglet is really just doing a beautiful job leveraging the farm advantage. This might be a greedy point for Hoglet to try and solo out this Rift Herald, as Kokok's just going to run right at him. He forces out the flash very early on. As Camille is incoming, they can look for a fight here. You can see TK already on his way up.
船旅間に合うか
They have an ultimate that they can use to get closer if they need to. So rotations from Rascal Jester are going to be first up here. Axes might need to back out of this one, but they make the call to go for it. There goes the dredge line. That's going to be a lot of burst over onto the bear. He's going to go down before this fight even begins, as Cat's going to do his best to try and clean things up. He's not going to be able to knock down Corporal, as the Ignite will eventually take him down in the end, and Pink is doing his best to try and knock down Unyan as well, but with the Hachimecha waiting over the wall, Unyan makes the call to turn. He's going to possibly have an opportunity to get onto Pink, just barely not going to knock him down, as the bouncing dagger is going to find his way over. That's going to be 3-1 in the wake of that one, and 3 kills going over to Pink. Not a bad position to be in if you are Rascal Jester, and what was ultimately a kind of a throw from AXZ. This was never an objective that you had any right contesting for. But they make the call to go in anyway. They get 1 kill immediately to start things off, but not even an arrow shot from Ash, as I don't even know if she was level 6 yet. The fight that ended up resulting was really what did AXZ in, as if you're not going to lock down the Katarina right away, she's happy to get her Conqueror stacked up, while Unyan and Kaka going for a little bit of a fight on the top side of things. Unyan not going to get that empowered auto off, but needs to be a little bit careful. Hoglet's here, so opportunity does present itself. Kakak's going to have to just be forced into the fight there. Hoglet's going to pick up that kill. While on the other end of the map, Rascal Jester looked to secure that Infernal Drake. Will be getting themselves the second Drake of the game. Meanwhile, Hoglet doing his most to be enjoying a little bit of World of Warcraft here by farming up as many camps as he possibly can. And that was sort of the potential of an unlocked Katarina in that fight. Of course, things do have the possibility to go differently if day 1 is there, but now that you've given her a 3-kill steroid, I think opportunity for a shutdown on a Katarina gets harder and harder to manage if she just starts blowing up Hoglet or day 1 just for being in her way. As we'll likely be enjoying a little bit longer of a lull state in this game. More mana picked up by Art, and day 1 still waiting on picking up her Ash's core items. For now, both teams seem fairly content to just kind of farm it out. Top lane will be likely the main place of action unless Hachimecha has anything to say about it. Coming into this ball lane here, Dredge Line's going to go wide. A good eat from Nagi to help out dodge that one. But when the waves re-meet in the middle, will Hachimecha be able to find anything? For now, you can just see a familiar sight of Hoglet wandering around this topside river saying, "Anyone got any spare camps? Spare camps?" In the bot lane, the last of the turret plates will fall, so AXZ may be losing their first turret while Hoglet is kind of waiting around for more farm. It's just so difficult for him to get to the bottom side of the map right now, given the amount of pressure that Rascal Jester can exude on it. If there's one thing a Jungle Karthus wants, it is his blue buff, so he is going to try and wander over there for that. Hachimecha is going to back away for now. Turret going down to the side of Rascal Jester will help bring the gold favor back towards them, but not too stiffly, as for now Hoglet's still doing his best to try and stack up the gold. I do think that also, with this next Rift Herald coming up, while AXZ will be a little bit stronger, I really would hope to not see them pull out the same mistakes, especially with first turret already off the board.
AXZ 側に渡っていき
the and turret plates down. Rift Herald is just not worth nearly as much in this game.
お互いどういう判断になるでしょう。
RJ としては間違いなく
So maybe Rascal Jester will be able to do something about it.
リーチをかけられるのは嫌だと思うので、お互い戦って奪い合う展開になってくるかなとは思いますね。
As it really is one that will only benefit them. They can kind of use it on the mid or top side.
大事なポイントとしてはやはりガリア
You might be able to use it top side to give Unyan that top lane turret, but
ピンク選手に対応していく
it is just, it's so not worth the risk right now. And the way the fight went last time, you can't risk a repeat performance with Art being 3-0 already.
そしてボットレーンではアートにもお金が、そしてヘラルドなのではちゃめちゃにもゴールド入ってるでしょう。さあクラウドドレイク1分前です。
あと選手もう通行は完成しましたか。かなり早いですね。
早いです。さあただムラムラのスタックを貯めるにはもちろんまだまだ時間がかかります。
そうですね。だいたいあと4分ぐらいはかかるかなとは思うので、
スタックもこれで27ですね。
Now, the other interesting thing for Rascal Jester in the position that they're in is with Karthus already up to level 10, about to hit level 11, it becomes a lot harder for Rascal Jester to want to try to opt into fights on the side lane because it becomes so easy for Hoglet to have influence on it and possibly trade a kill back if it doesn't go ideal to form. So we'll see how things go around this Drake objective. I do think one other thing that's I've just now noticed is that Kakog and Unyan have about a 2-level disadvantage, while Unyan's going to be going for a fight onto the Katarina. That's going to be the heroic entrance, and that's exactly what we were talking about earlier with the threats to Katarina. You could hear Katsurian saying there, the main damage dealer of Rascal Jester down. That's going to be AXZ able to pick up that Cloud Drake, as well as a huge shutdown over to Unyan. Will only make it harder for Kakog to exist in the side lanes with him, already at a level disadvantage. While Hachimecha and Nagi are just going to work on the Rift Herald on the other end of the map here. Does not look like any amount of contest will come out from the side of AXZ Gaming. They're happy to let this Rift Herald go over, as it likely will just be converted into a top lane here shortly. And once again, with no objectives and no real reason to take a fight, we'll continue to enjoy a little bit of the lull state. I do like that look from AXZ to attack that side lane Katarina, and this is sort of the problem with Katarina in pro play, is if she gets focused down, she is insanely squishy, and only just now buying the stopwatch to have a Sonya's effect to try and wait out the Hextech ultimatum means that was a death that was realistically preventable. But now they'll have to live with giving that shutdown back over. But they will have a decent amount of time to live with it, as for now, the lane ping-pong matches are going to continue. And I do like the build that Art is going for with the Black Cleaver. The sort of unfortunate thing is that I don't know if... Oh, hold on. There's an arrow onto Art. It will force out the eat from Nagi, but a good depth charge is going to keep a lot of members knocked up. There goes Unyan. We'll lock up Hachimecha, but Hachimecha might be the one who wants him locked up. Kakok's going to fly in with the ultimate there. That's going to be 1-for-1 so far, but Axes are going to be forced to be routed here. Gadaidu's not going to be able to escape on this one. I don't think Corporal will either, as it will be a 1-for-1 overall. I think Hachimecha actually stepped on a Hoglet Q, and oh my goodness, Art's gonna have to do some fancy footwork. Hoglet's looking to make the most of that one. He has ultimate still, so Art has nowhere to run. He is just going to go down here. Pink is going to go down as well. That's going to be a 2-for-1 for the Karthus. And it's sort of exactly what we were talking about, is this is a hard comp to really have a Katarina dive all the way through and be a solo damage dealer.
かなり RJ としては美味しい展開ではあったんですが、最終的にはちょっとホグレット選手のダメージが
We'll watch this all play out one more time. So the arrow flies in. There goes the eat. And this is ultimately Cog doing what he can to try and make this fight work. He comes in, he gets 1 kill, but the amount of damage he takes just trying to run away is just a little bit too much. And the whole while, Hoglet goes completely untouched, throwing out multiple Qs, does land one little last one onto Hachimecha there, and then Art looks for a bit of fight, but Senna is not an AD carry that can really force her will upon a Karthus. Will force the flash immediately after, all the while Hoglet was happy to hold his ultimate. And an Ash Volley landed onto Pink as well, was I think just enough damage to knock him down there. But what I was going to get at before that fight started was Art is going for the Black Cleaver here, which is, I feel like, is a little bit useless in this kind of a game. Of course, Cat does have that split damage profile, but is mostly magic damage. And with Cog already building his own Black Cleaver and Hachimecha going full tank, where is the opportunity that this Black Cleaver armor reduction is really going to make the difference in a comp that lacks the damage that Rascal Jester has? You're gonna need all the damage you can get. It does give you a little bit of extra HP, which is nice, but surprised we didn't see him going for something a little bit more like a Maw of Malmortius or something like that. But with a Cloud Drake coming up here in just a minute, this is going to be AXZ with eager eyes on this one, as there goes Union all the way in. There goes Katarina again, as there comes the dunk to pull Union back in. He is going to escape in the very end, but that's going to be a 1-for-none overall, and AXZ are going to try and take the Drake anyway. Does not look like Rascal Jester want to be contesting. They have a mid lane that they can go capitalize off of if they want. But there it is again, and this is just sort of... I feel like I've commentated these matches before with the pick of Katarina and just not able to really find any value, even after an impressive early game. Just not a champion that can really get off the ground early on, or at least, excuse me, is not a champion that can get off the ground into a team like AXZ, where you're going to be locked in an octagon with the Camille, and then you're going to have a Galio diving on top of that with a guaranteed knockup, 2 knockups, and then a taunt. As well as if day one is hitting Ash snipes like that one, it's a little bit of a hard ask for Rascal Jester here. Now, unfortunately, I do think this might turn into a little bit of a long one for AXZ, as realistically, they're just relying on a lot of scaling picks. Senna, of course, does scale a little bit as well, but not quite do the rest of the members, until Hoglet is just sort of one-shotting Pink and Art with his ultimate ability. And once again, we'll just be liable to a lull state for a little while longer. isn't a whole lot to really say about this one. The thing is also that while you did lose the first two Drakes, now that you have control on a quad Cloud Drake, that is an obscene amount of Ash arrows and Karthus ultimates that will just be flying out. And so many of their ultimates are so vital to just neutralizing Pink. The more often they're off cooldown, the worse it feels to be at Katarina, but the better it feels to be AXZ Gaming. It's an arrow. Ooh, beautiful sidestep from Hachimecha, but it will force him to sidestep back into the wall of pain coming out from Karthus, and that'll be enough to knock him down in the end. You dodge a slow, or excuse me, you dodge a stun, but you force yourself into a slow.
ウイニャンはテレポートを残しているので離れました。そして先ほどの集団戦に参加するためにコグコグがある、テレポートダウンです。
As Hoglet, it does look like he is going for a Morellonomicon here, which, honestly, he could just go for Rabadons outright, as nobody on the side of Rascal Jester has any magic resist right now. Save for Hachimecha with Merc Treads, which is wild to me, that you're looking at a 4-1 Karthus jungle that has done nothing but farm, and you opt out of magic resist items, but we'll see what it ends up netting them in the end. Or if AXZ will even make the capitalization, they're happy to just wait for these next few Drakes. As the third item is completed onto Hoglet there.
そうですね。あとはもうこれ Day1 選手が3コアできたらいよいよチャンピオンの性能というのでかなりダメージ量追いついてくるので、もうこの次のドラゴン RJ としてはもう戦って人数差を作った上でもバロンにつなげて
I do apologize that this is going to be one of these slower ones. There isn't a whole lot that can really be said in a match like this, but
なりそうですね。あ、ただちょっとまだ
そうですね。経験値版見るとまだドラゴンファイトには間に合わなさそうですね。
if Slow and Steady were to work for Sengoku Gaming, I'm not surprised to see it working here for AXZ as well. There goes an Abyssal Voyage. It brought in a Hachimecha. They might have an opportunity to knock Hoglet down. Kind of gets found out alone in the jungle there, but an Ash Arrow. Ooh, Hachimecha was on the rim of that one, and had he been stunned for just a moment longer, he actually probably would have gone down there. Unyan, though, alone in the top lane, will be able to get a little bit of damage onto that turret, but for now, Rascal Jester will be able to secure this Cloud Drake and move Kog'Kog back up to answer Unyan. Ultimately, a good find from the side of Rascal Jester. That's a huge shutdown cashed in on already. But putting yourselves up to Soul Point is not a terrible position to be in.
この後の睨み合いではホグレット選手いよいよレベル16になってしまいますし、Day1 選手のパワースパイクも上がってくるので、
Now for AXZ,
今決めておきたかった場面ではありますね。
It's a little bit hard to say, because while Rascal Jester were in the position early on that they were the ones who wanted to fight, it doesn't feel like AXZ have quite taken the reins that they can to start forcing fights around the map. Especially when Hoglet almost doesn't even need to be there to still have his fair share of influence. But I also do enjoy that AXZ are playing this one out rather patient, and part of the reason that they don't want to be going for plays around the map could be that they are wanting to save everything for their team fights and locking down Pink. You don't want to, burn it off in the side lane, you kill someone, and then have the fight just be swept out from under you because you couldn't lock down the Katarina, or you didn't have Flash available. So I don't mind how AXZ are working on this one. It unfortunately just means that this game will probably end up going a lot longer. as Union is going to be spending a little bit too long in the bot lane here. It's going to find Kog'Kog. He should win that duel, but not with Pink there, and he is going to flash away. That's going to be AXZ's call to turn on to the Baron. And it looks like Rascal Jester, no, the TP is coming in. Hachimecha is ready over the wall. Here he comes. That's a phase breaker opportunity. He misses. He wasn't able to quite find the stun, but he will pull out Corporal and get him knocked down. That's going to be Pink going very, very low. The ultimate flies in. It's going to zone away a member for now. Katarina may have dodged the ultimate from Karthus, but cannot dodge Union's autos. He's going all in onto Art here. The empowered auto is not going to be enough to knock him down, but Galio will come in to clean that one up. Karthus is going to be picking up an extra kill as well. That's going to be AXZ finding a fight win there, and they should be able to get Baron off of this one and possibly start looking to end this one. And we'll see how things go for the rest of this one. That might have just been the straw that broke the camel's back. A 6.5k gold lead. Baron picked up. And we'll watch the fight that let it all happen one more time. Hachimecha comes over the wall, and he had a moment where there was a face breaker opportunity, but just was not quite able to land it. The issue was that even if he does land it, he's a little bit too disconnected from the rest of his the rest of his damage. And Pink just trying to get in to help out ends up going down before the fight even really kicks off. As Galio finds a huge taunt right there, ends up cleaning house in this fight. And this should be AXZ's way to try and end this one. Day One didn't even need to do much in that fight, as Hoglet was able to belt out most of the damage there. Pushing past Baron is going to be a big ask for Rascal Jester, and as an arrow flies in, finds his way there. Even if AXZ are a little late to this party, they're making the most of it for now. It's going to be a 1-for-1 in the end. Gadairu's not going to find a taunt, so this fight should be mostly disengaged. And no teleport on him means he isn't going to be able to keep up the pressure there. Kind of a weird random fight for them to be engaging on, but they do knock down Union for Katarina there. And as we're kind of just waiting for one more fight, this Cloud Drake, Rascal Jester won it, but it's not Soul. You don't really need to be handing it over. Ultimately, keeping the ultimate CDR out of the hands of AXZ is what's more pressing for Rascal Jester here, as they march their way forward. AXZ is doing their best to zone for now. Union has a good flank opportunity presenting itself if AXZ can keep them stalled up long enough. Over the wall here, and I don't know if they know he's there yet. There he goes. He's all in and gives a beautiful platform for the heroic entrance. Hachimecha is going to be running away at Mach 7, but TK is going to get left behind alongside Pink, and Corporal's going to go down to the bear, but Kog'Kog's not going to be able to escape without paying for his crimes. Baron is going to be wearing off, but AXZ want to open up this mid lane. You might as well take what you can before you have to back up to that Cloud Drake. And AXZ has a decent sized wave here. They could potentially look to open too if they want to move up to the top side as well. But Hachimecha wandering a little bit too far forward. That's going to be a wall of pain that he's going to be forced to fight through. Karthus not going to die there, while Art is going to be going down on the other side of the thing. There goes the Karthus ultimate. As Hachimecha's going to fall as well. This should be GG for AXZ Gaming, as the redemption is going to come down. Not going to knock anyone out, as Nagi's just trying to do what he can, but AXZ at this point just a bit too far ahead, and they're going to be the ones pulling this out. Ultimately, good stuff to AXZ Gaming. Rascal Jester tried to send it out by giving Pink one last opportunity on the Katarina, but unfortunately did not make the cut. All of that being said, thank you all for tuning in. I have been your host, Dr. No. The way I do things here is I do the first 4 games today, which this was game 4, and for games 5 through 8 tomorrow. I will be covering those at the same time this broadcast started, so you can be sure to look forward to that. If you guys are at all interested, however, I'm good friends with the people at the LJL Officially Unofficial. They also do an LJL English broadcast, and they do games 5 through 8 today, and then they flip-flop with me tomorrow. So, you can look forward to watching the rest of the games now if you like. I will be hosting them and tweeting that one out. If you guys have enjoyed this content so far, though, feel free to drop a follow, and I'll see you guys all again tomorrow.
いやホーグレットのカーサスどうなる